Licorice pizza, a term for vinyl 12-inch long playing or LP record, named because it is black and about the same size as a pizza. Welcome to another edition of Licorice Pizza. And boy, we got a treat for you today. But first, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, okay? And don't forget about the t-shirts for sale on Licorice Pizza. All different sizes, folks, come in different colors that you like. So I have a special guest, as you can see right here, Mr. Elijah Winfrey. There he is. And Elijah, I'm going to give you the pleasure of who is our guest today?
Yeah, so you might hear our guest Slinky Dog in the background. Our hope is that you don't hear her, but we are going to be talking about Prince today, which is a fantastic artist. Obviously, he was a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into all his history, and I've been begging you to do this episode for a long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. So. You came to me last week and said, "Yeah, how about Prince?" I said, "Let's do it. Let's do it."
It's all about persistence, right? You got to annoy the person enough, and then you get the yes eventually.
What an artist to do, Elijah. You know what? I consider him a genius. Musical genius. The artist formerly known as Prince. Is that what we'll get to that later.
Yes.
But anyway, just a crazy career. Great musician, writer. I don't know how to put it in words. The joy he gave to a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
Movies and music.
Mm-hmm.
And Elijah's going to kick the show off. A little bit of history. We're going to go back to, I believe, 1975.
Yeah, 1975
wow.
is where this story begins.
Yep.
Apparently, Prince was working with basically his cousin's husband to put together a band. That band was called 94 East.
Mm-hmm.
And they hired Prince along with other musicians to record tracks. Those tracks later became a part of the 94 East album, which was called Minneapolis Genius, the historic 1977 recording. So That was kind of where it started for Prince, was that he was a part of this 94 East band. And I'm going to be honest with you guys who are watching this, okay? I did not know a lot of this history prior to this morning when I was looking it up. So you are going to see me read my notes quite a bit today, okay? Because I want to make sure I get this right, and I know Donnie does too. But again, that's kind of where it all started, was with this 94 East band. And, I'm wondering, and I probably could have found this out prior to the show, Donnie, I'm wondering what those songs sound like.
True. I got to be totally honest. I have not listened to that. It's like his three or four albums previous to 1999.
Yeah.
I should be ashamed of myself because I love Prince. Big fan.
The album 1999, not the year.
No, not the right.
Which I will say, I thought he released 1999 in 1999 when I was growing up. That's what I thought. I didn't realize it was a kind of a futuristic album, in the early 80s. But we'll get there.
And a lot of people, Elijah, I don't think realize his first recordings, like, of any value. Well, they're all valuable, but 1977.
Oh yeah,
you're going back a few years.
Certainly are, yeah. And see, that's the thing, is that he did this thing with 94 East.
Yes.
And then after graduating high school, he actually created a demo tape with producer Chris Moon. And Chris Moon, tried to get Prince a record deal because he saw the talent, obviously.
Right. Yeah.
But they were unable to secure a recording contract.
Right.
And for a lot of people, that's where that story would end.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't find a record deal, and that's the end of your dream.
Good point.
But Chris Moon was not going to let that be the end of Prince's dream, because
he saw the talent.
Yeah. And he had another way to go about it.
Yep.
First way didn't work, but I got another route.
Right.
And the other route was to go to Minneapolis businessman Owen Hunsley, who, again, saw the talent of Prince and signed the 19-year-old to a management deal. And then together, they put together a new demo and a professional ad kit, a professional image kit.
They all do that, yeah.
And they were able to actually attract through that Warner Brothers Records, A&M Records, and Columbia Records, and then Prince would obviously go on to sign famously and kind of I can't say the word right. Infamously, there we
Those
go.
2 words, Elijah. Yeah, Warner. Okay.
Warner Brothers Records. That's where he would end up signing.
Well, being in films like you are too, they're a big film company, huge.
They
right?
are, yeah.
So you would be very familiar with their.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Warner Brothers, if anyone's ever listened to anything I've said about Warner Brothers in the past,
I've heard you talk about them quite a bit.
They have a way of dealing with their artists that I don't like.
Right.
But
right.
they never asked me my opinion. So, but they like to hire somebody to do a job, and then they like to do everything they can to
micromanage.
Yeah.
Things. Yeah.
Okay. Which to me, why hire the person to do the job? Just do it yourself if you're not going to let them
some
do
oversight, but you don't micromanage Prince.
Yeah, and it didn't. Here's the thing that's interesting though, Donnie, and I think you as a musician can speak to this. When Prince first signed his deal with Warner Brothers, it was for 3 albums, and they said to him, "You will have creative control, and you will retain publishing rights."
Ooh,
that's a big deal.
That is a huge.
That's a pretty appealing contract, right?
Publishing rights. Oh yeah.
So that's something that I think a lot of people, maybe don't know about it, is that, Prince, for all the things that he would have issues with Warner Brothers later, at the beginning of their relationship, it actually looked like it was going to be good for both sides.
And it was, as far as I know,
for a little bit anyway.
Yeah.
But in 1978, Prince, releases his first album called For You. And what's interesting about that album is that Prince wrote, produced, arranged, composed, and played all 27 instruments on that album, except for the song Soft and Wet, whose lyrics were co-written by Moon.
I know, but 27 instruments.
Right. That's not like 27 of the same thing. That's 27 different instruments.
He plays them well.
Now, you're a musician.
Yeah.
How many instruments can you play, Donnie?
Really 2.
And those are guitar and drums?
Guitar and drums, yeah.
So can you imagine playing?
No. No, I can't. And he played them very well. And I know one of these guys, when he brought in this demo, oh, great musicians. Well, who are the musicians? I'm Prince.
Right.
He's just, I don't know, man.
Because you would expect it to be a whole group of people making that sound.
Yeah.
Not just
I know.
Prince.
Right.
And I do want to throw this out there, Donnie. You correct me if I'm wrong, but I know that back in the 70s, a lot of those artists weren't necessarily doing it themselves. They had band members,
and some studio musicians that would come in and play some parts.
Yeah. So Prince was rare. Right out the gate, he was rare.
Yeah, he wanted everything in-house in total control. He knew he loved music so much. He knew, Elijah, oh my God, every little sound was on a record that he heard. I would have done it this way. I don't like the sound of that guitar. Maybe a little too loud there. Oh no, that organ part I would change. Such a mind.
It kind of reminds me, and I don't know if you would agree with this, Donnie, but it kind of reminds me a little bit of the actor Anthony Hopkins, or I should say Sir Anthony Hopkins.
Oh, yeah.
How, there's a behind-the-scenes story with him that he reads every script that he's going to do.
You told me that.
50 times before he ever shows up on set.
50 times.
So that he can know his job and everybody else's. And it feels like maybe Prince was that way as well. He wanted to know his part and everybody else's.
Right. If I forget later, I got to mention this too about if there was a concert he did, no matter if it was with the Revolution or the band that came after that, after every show, they had to listen to all that. If there was one little mistake in there,
oh wow,
guess who heard it?
Yes,
there's where you have to improve.
Right.
He said he was such a, and I get it. You're doing it live. They come to see your show. They don't want to hear most people probably wouldn't notice, but Prince, you had to watch your performance.
Yeah. So
And
kind
he
so
would
kind of
call
like
you out. He would actually call you out.
so kind of like Bill Belichick with the Patriots.
Oh, it's similar, yes.
You know, I know that's sports, but I'm just saying,
There's a
like,
man who saw everything too, yeah.
yeah. So
But
in 1978, he releases his first album, For You. We just talked about how he played all the instruments on that album, except for one of the songs where the lyrics were co-written by Moon. And I do believe that is the same Moon that helped him find
probably,
that
yeah.
other businessman.
Right.
Which that's something
Yes.
about Prince that you and I were talking about in the car ride over
Yep.
here, is that, you know, if you were in the good graces of Prince,
Mhm.
you know, he was loyal to his people.
Absolutely. Oh,
You know,
absolutely.
that's what
No.
I've read, is that he was loyal to his people.
Loyal.
Not that he didn't have any issues,
Right, right.
but he was loyal. And that to
Yep.
me was kind of cool that he
Yep.
would use
Oh,
that
yeah.
guy,
Yep.
you know, even after technically speaking, he doesn't really need him anymore.
He
at that
wanted
point.
people to know where he's coming from.
Yeah,
It's the same when you make movies or whatever, you know how you want it.
right.
You can visualize that. That's critical. Some guys get in the studio, oh, that's good enough. You know,
Right.
that's all right. Oh, not really. But anyway,
And
Yeah.
and you have some information on how that album For You from 1978 did critically, right?
yes, I do. For You, it's blank. So that means it wasn't a big seller.
Mhm.
So it really didn't, I don't know, it didn't go gold or platinum
Right.
on there with the debut, but still he released it in 1978. Elijah, I believe you said it was?
Yeah, 1978 was that first album.
Yes.
And then what's interesting is that, you know, Prince, obviously, when you're recording the album, you can play all the instruments. But
Right.
when you're doing it live, you have to have a band.
Oh, good point.
So January 1979, Prince starts forming that band. He starts getting everything together. They do their first show together, January 5th of 1979. Warner Brothers sends some executives out to hear this show. And basically what they came up with as far as a decision afterwards was, we're not going to push him as hard as maybe we push other artists right now, because
Right.
he needs more time to develop
Yeah,
that chemistry
absolutely,
with the other
absolutely.
musicians.
Yes. Yeah.
So it wasn't a failure, but it was one of
Right.
those things where they're like, okay,
Yeah.
we got this guy in a 3-album deal, give him time.
Now that 3-album deal, I don't know, Elijah, that was, of course, with an independent label, I'm assuming.
That was Warner Brothers Records.
You mean even his debut from?
Yeah.
That was Warner Brothers.
Yeah, that was the first album on that deal.
Oh, wow.
And so, like I said, he started forming that
That's
band,
pressure.
and they said, okay, we're going to give him a little bit more time.
Okay.
But he's already given us one album. We got 2 more.
Because usually those big record companies don't give you, usually 2 albums. If you don't, after 2 albums sell, you're
Yeah.
done.
And that's why I was saying earlier
Wow.
that contract must have been very appealing to somebody like Prince, knowing that, okay, I got 3 albums,
3, wow. Okay.
which is rare, as you
Yep.
just said,
Yep.
and I get creative control,
Mhm.
and I retain publishing rights to the songs
That's
I make
almost
on those
unheard
3
of.
albums.
That's unheard of.
I would sign it. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
oh,
I would
absolutely,
sign it.
absolutely.
So that's
Yeah.
something to kind of, you know, again,
Mhm.
keep in mind. So then October of 79. So January of 79, they have their first concert. Then October of 79, Prince releases his self-titled album, Prince.
Prince, right.
And I believe that one did a little bit better, right, Donnie?
That's got his name. It did. It went silver. Now, gold records will sell like 500,000, platinum's a million. Silver, I'm thinking, is 200 and around 250,000 roughly. So that's still pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
At that time, it's good.
Yeah.
Later, Prince would. No.
Yeah. See, that wouldn't have been acceptable.
No.
It's all about context, right,
Yeah.
my friend?
But hey, if I have a second album come out and it sells 250,000, I am going to be excited.
Right.
Absolutely.
Until you've had 1 million sell, and then that's
Yeah.
a crisis number.
That's
you
human
know?
nature. That's
It's-
my nature. Yes.
It's all about context.
Yeah.
So he releases that album, Prince, in 1979. And then in October of 1980, something about the month of October and Prince. That seemed to
I
be like
noticed that.
a
Yes.
consistent
Yeah, I
thing for
noticed
him.
that. Yeah.
But October of 1980, Prince releases the album Dirty Mind.
Yeah.
Which obviously, if you know anything about Prince and his music, you could say he had
Right.
a dirty mind. Anyway, but like I said, October of 1980, he puts out
Yeah.
that album. That's the 3rd album on that deal, by the way. So this one's very, very meaningful. It's
Mhm.
got to do well because
Yes.
this is it right here.
Yes, yes.
You know, decisions have got to be made after this album,
Yep.
and I believe that one did well, right, Donnie?
Gold, 500,000. So
There you
that's
go.
double what what Prince did
Hmm.
before that. So that's good.
So you go from
So bunch of
being
gold. Yeah.
so you go from being a 19-year-old kid who gets this opportunity, gets this 3-album deal. First album, I'm not going to say the album's bad because that would be horrible to say because Prince never had a bad album. But you go from the first album not making a ton of sales
Right.
to the second one being silver to the third one being gold. I would say you're onto something. Would you agree?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
So February of 1981, Prince makes his first appearance on Saturday Night Live performing the song Party Up.
Hmm.
And then that's where things kind of got a little bit more interesting for Prince because Prince in October of 81 releases the album Controversy, his 4th album, and he ends up playing several dates in support of it as the first of 3 opening acts for the Rolling Stones.
Yeah, that's huge.
Now,
That's huge.
as a DJ, I would never put Prince and Rolling Stones together musically because to me, I feel like they're very different
They
from each
are.
other.
They're different.
Would you agree with that?
Yes. Yep.
But they did for this show.
Yep.
It's a great opportunity for him, no doubt about it.
Yeah, he's going to get exposure like he never had. Yeah.
And unfortunately, it wasn't the type of exposure he was looking for. Because at one of the concerts, Prince appeared in a trench coat and black bikini briefs. He was forced off the stage after only 3 songs by the audience member throwing trash at him. So he got the exposure, but not the exposure he was
You
looking
never
for.
knew he was. Yeah. Yeah. It's.
But again, I have to think using my DJ brain, that we both have.
So he's off that tour, obviously.
He's off that tour. But I have to believe that they thought that was going to go better. But that mixing those two
They
genres,
weren't ready for Prince as we know him now.
right. Can you
At that
imagine
time-
being those people who threw the trash?
No, God.
Like they were throwing trash at somebody who would later on make millions and millions of album sales.
I gotta quit laughing.
That is funny
I'm
though,
trying to
because
visualize Prince on stage.
and I'm picturing the audience of the Rolling Stones,
Right.
how I would see a Rolling Stones fan and how they must have reacted to this guy coming out there in bikini briefs and a trench coat. Like, I have to imagine that Rolling Stones crowd's like, Mick Jagger would never, I don't know.
Well, Mick's done some stuff, but yeah. But oh my God, I can visualize that, Elijah. So yeah, you don't know how far into the tour this was, do you?
So it was during a Los Angeles double showing. So Rolling Stones were doing their US leg.
Yes.
And they were doing 2 nights in Los Angeles, and those 2 nights were the dates that
And they're
Prince
doing a lot of
opened.
stadium stuff at that time too.
Yeah. So
Ooh, wow.
So like I said, that's where he opened up for
81.
them. And
That was
in October of 81. Yeah.
they're doing like they played at the Carrier Dome in Syracuse.
Okay.
81 was a lot of stadiums. Huge tour for the Stones. And I'm sorry, man.
1982, that's when Prince began touring a small list of college towns where he was the headliner.
Headliner. Okay.
So that was a little
Yep.
bit more of
Yeah.
a safety thing. Now, also in 1981, and this will be very important for something I'm going to say later. In 81, Prince forms a side project called The Time. And as a part of The Time, he would write the songs and perform a lot of the instrumentation and provide backing vocals.
See,
But
that's the way he.
But if you're looking in the liner notes, it won't say Prince. It'll say like Jackie Starr or something else.
Right, that's the way he operated. You didn't know where. Yeah.
But what's interesting about that is he didn't provide the lead vocals. The lead vocals were provided by Morris Day, which is where Morris Day and The Time comes from.
Oh my Lord.
Which will be important for something I'm going to say later on.
Wow.
But they released 4 albums, The Time did. They released 4 albums from 1981 to 1990. So that was their situation. But remember Morris Day and the time. Remember
Okay,
that.
Yep.
So and I want to back up here. Controversy album. That one was a pretty big one, right?
Well, it says BPI, no platinum or gold I see here. Just BPI. Was that bronze maybe? Or
Oh, I'm not sure.
I'm not sure
That
either.
sounds like something that you would read on the back of a suntan lotion thing.
Yeah, I don't think it did that well, Elijah.
So moving on.
The next one, that's a difference.
That's a big one. Yeah. So in late 1982, Prince releases his fifth album, a double album called 1999,
Yeah.
which sells over 4 million copies.
Yes,
Donnie's going to tell you about the music of that here in a second, but I wanted to throw this out there because I thought this was kind of a cool side story. The music video for Little Red Corvette becomes one of the first two videos by black artists, the other being Billie Jean by Michael Jackson, played in heavy rotation on MTV. Now, MTV, prior to those two videos playing, had a reputation of being against black music. That's how they were perceived by the public, is that they were not fans of music from black artists. And that is until CBS Records president Walter Yetnikoff threatened to pull all CBS recording artists off of their channel. So he basically called them up and said, "You got to play Billie Jean." They said, "We're not going to." He said, "All right, well, if you don't, then all these music videos that you have access to from my record label, you will no longer have access to." So he pulled kind of a boss move in that moment to make sure
he had to
that Michael got played, and in turn made sure Prince got played.
Yes.
So that was a big deal, and of course, International Lover earned Prince his first Grammy nomination. But you know this album a lot.
Yeah.
What do you love about it?
The whole album to me was a prelude to Purple Rain. To me, it sounded, like he had found himself, Elijah. Prince, to me. Like Party Like It's 1999, catchy hooks and the music in it, and Little Red Corvette's a huge hit. You could tell this guy is like, okay, I think he's arrived.
Yeah.
But little did Prince know he's really going to arrive in the following year.
Yeah.
But that whole album to me is just phenomenal album from start to finish, that whole album. Yeah.
So we move on now to a very critical part for Prince.
Ooh,
I think we can both agree on that.
My goodness. Yeah.
And I will preclude this by saying 1984 to 1987, that is what is recognized as the Revolution. Prince and the Revolution. After that, we'll get to that. But 1984 to 1987, his backing band was called the Revolution.
Yep.
In the early 80s, here's what happened, which is kind of interesting from my side of things.
Yep.
Prince required his management to obtain a deal for him to star in a major motion picture. At that point, though, Prince's exposure on television had been limited to several pop and R&B hits, music videos, and occasional TV performances. Despite this, his management got it done, and that film was known as Purple Rain.
Wow.
Now, here's what's funny about this, okay? So he's on Warner Brothers Records, so you would naturally think that the movie's going to come out by Warner Brothers. But whenever his manager went to talk to Warner Brothers about it and pitched the idea of Purple Rain with Prince starring in that lead role, Warner Brothers said, "We'd rather have John Travolta." And they also said that they thought it was ridiculous to have a musician-led movie. What does this guy know about acting or entertaining people?
Oh, my Lord.
So that's what they went to it with. And Prince's manager, and I hope I pronounce his name correctly, his name was Robert Cavallo.
John Travolta wouldn't fit into that role.
He wouldn't.
Now that I'm not even close. Not even close.
But Warner Brothers wanted him to do it.
Oh, my Lord, man.
But Robert Cavallo ended up funding the movie himself.
Wow. So he's the manager of Prince.
Yeah.
Funding it.
He doesn't want to lose his star talent, right? And the star talent wants to be in a movie. So he's like, all right, well, I will fund it. I will produce it. Let's do this thing.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening, obviously, as I'm sure you're going to go into, is the movie was a great success. $68 million gross.
Yeah.
Movie won Prince an Oscar.
What did it cost to make it, Elijah? You know
I don't remember what it cost to make, but like I said, I just can't imagine that manager saying, you know what, let me do it.
Right.
You know, I need this client. I think he's onto something. But what was interesting about it was Warner Brothers, after the movie was produced, when they watched it, they still thought it was ridiculous. They didn't get it.
Oh, it's a great movie. Oh my God.
They didn't get it. They were like, you know, but all right, we'll distribute it because we don't want to lose out on any potential profits if there are profits to be had. That was kind of their attitude.
That was huge movie.
So you will notice it is a Warner Brothers picture, but it was not funded by Warner Brothers. It was just distributed by them.
Oh, distribution. See, yeah. See.
But Prince obviously did the album, and the thing I was telling you about Morris Day and the Time. In the movie, the rival band is Morris Day and the Time.
Okay.
So Prince was really kind of a smart businessman because not only is he making the soundtrack, he's starring in the picture, and the rival band is a band he created. I mean, that's
inspiring. It is.
That's pretty good.
I mean, you've got to be creative and smart, and he was like, this guy knew the ropes.
And I will say before we get to the album, Prince's, big thing with that was every musician on set had to take acting lessons. And Morris Day apparently goofed around too much whenever he went to his acting lessons and he got kicked out of class. So, but album-wise, my friend, what do you think of Purple Rain?
I'll never forget buying it. Yeah.
Where were you?
Where was I? I was living in Messina. Had my first child, summer of '84. Oh my goodness. And MTV was the rage, Elijah, back then. I mean, it was huge. That's when they played music videos.
Yeah.
The original VJs were still there, I believe. Nina Blackwood, Martha Quinn, JJ Jackson, all those great VJs. And the first one released, first video and single off Purple Rain was When Doves Cry. I remember watching that video. I said, oh my God, what is this? This is so like, nobody does videos this great.
Right.
And Prince did. But the album, yeah. I remember buying it. Everybody's talking about Purple Rain, everybody. The album, and I think that When Doves Cry, I think the movie came out, the timing couldn't have been better. If I'm not mistaken, I think the movie came out just after that single.
And it would have been a good thing for me to write that note down, but I didn't.
Talk about the perfect storm. The perfect storm.
Yeah, for sure.
And the movie's huge. The single's huge. The album, 13 platinum. It ended up 13 million.
Wow.
Now you know why Prince is. He's not happy with
250,000 anymore. No, not when you're a
superstar.
Well, at the same time, if you climb a hill, that's great. But if you conquer a mountain, then climbing a hill is not that great.
And the song "Purple Rain" is it's hard to have a more beautiful song than that.
I agree.
I mean, the audience when he did that at the Super Bowl, "Purple Rain," my goodness.
Yeah,
I think my favorite Super Bowl performance is Prince.
I would say he's second for me.
Yeah, okay.
U2 is first because I think the significance of that halftime show.
Right.
You probably, hopefully, I mean, God willing, you'll never see that type of significance again.
That was amazing.
Because that was coming after obviously a national tragedy had just occurred.
Yeah.
And then U2, they didn't have to play the show, but they decided to. Now, I will say, it wasn't a national tragedy when Prince did it, but it was raining that day. So they gave him the option of not doing it, and he was like, no, we're going to go play.
We're going to do it.
Yeah. Like, it wasn't even a question.
And, Prince does everything, like, big.
Oh, yeah.
The stage, Elijah. The whole
I loved how it was in the symbol of,
I know.
of his, his logo.
The artist formerly known as Prince.
Yeah.
And, everything he did, he went on fabulous show. That was a single. I'm trying to think the singles. Purple Rain, When Doves Cry, and Let's Go Crazy.
Yeah, they had 5 singles off of that album.
5.
Yeah.
Okay, I could think of 3.
And there was only 9 songs. I'm gonna try to find that.
Bad.
So yeah, I mean that's pretty good. That's pretty good.
That's amazing.
Let me see if I can't find that real quick because I know that there were, like I said, a lot of
I Would Die For You. Was that
of
released as a single?
I think so.
That's another great tune off that.
Let me make sure I get this right here. So you had When Doves Cry, Let's Go Crazy,
Yep.
Purple Rain, I Would Die for You, and Take Me With You. Those were
Take
the
Me
singles.
With You was really, all
Those
right.
were the singles,
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Now,
Wow.
I gotta ask you, Donnie, your favorite song off of Purple Rain.
Purple Rain.
Okay.
Just,
My favorite song, and I don't really care about judgment that might come my way for this, is Darling Nikki.
I forgot about that.
I love that song.
That would be my second.
That is a
If I had to pick
song.
a second song, I forgot about that. That is a masterpiece. man.
That
I love
song kicks ass.
it. It does. It does kick ass.
And I'll be honest with you, I remember, and again, obviously,
it's such a different song.
I
Oh
was
my
not
God.
around nor thought of in 1984.
Thank
Okay.
you for bringing that up, Darling Nikki.
Oh yeah,
my
and there's a
God.
cool story about Darling Nikki as well. But I remember the first time I saw Purple Rain, and I saw just how crazy and chaotic that song was in the movie.
Yes.
And I'm like, man, like that's a kick-ass song because I like more rock
Yeah.
music. And so I went back and listened to the Purple Rain album, which in my opinion is a perfect album. There's no bad songs on that
No,
thing.
there isn't.
But I remember listening to Darling Nikki, and I'm like, man, if it wasn't so dirty lyrically, this would have been it would have changed the game on radio
Yeah.
because of how aggressive it is. But it is dirty lyrically. I laugh at it because I think the song is great.
It is.
It
is.
Other people get offended by it, and one of the people that got offended by it was actually a lady by the name of, and I want to make sure I get this name right. Let's see. I believe it was Tori Tipper, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see here, because I got my notes mixed up here. Oh, Tipper Gore is her name. Tipper Gore.
Al Gore's wife. She was on a crusade back in those days. She was in like, oh yeah, it goes on and on.
So she heard her 11-year-old daughter singing the lyrics of Darling Nikki. Now, I'm not going to, go through and read you all the lyrics, but one of the first lyrics is, I met a girl named Nikki in a hotel lobby masturbating with a magazine.
Right.
So she hears her 11-year-old daughter singing this song, and she forms an organization to make sure that there is the explicit sticker.
Yeah, I remember all that went on, and there would be a sticker on the album when you bought an album. At first, when I bought Purple Rain, there was no stickers.
Okay.
On there. No.
So was that something that changed the industry then? Or were there parental warnings prior to that?
I never saw a parental warning before she started all this. Then the government stepped in. You got to put, might be offensive or advisory, or you watch for okay, I get it.
So, I mean, I get it.
So when you bring it home to mom and dad, oh, kid, you are not listening to that.
But I wanted to ask about that though, because that was something I heard as like a rumor, was that Prince was the reason why we have that sticker. And I didn't know if that was for sure or not.
I think he might have been Elijah, but I know it was big in like 86 to 85.
Okay.
More warning labels.
So after
Rain. Oh yeah. And when you bought albums, you wouldn't believe the stickers that were on these records. I was of age. I didn't care. I just buy it. If I like it, I buy it, Like Black Sabbath, Judas Priest, some of these bands.
Yeah.
Twisted Sister, you had to have warning labels on. So, oh yeah.
So here's something else too. If you have Purple Rain without the sticker, that might be worth some money, right?
I think I ripped the plastic off. That's the problem. If I know, I know. I should have,
So here's the deal. So after Purple Rain, did you have anything else to say about Purple Rain?
No, it's just that Prince incorporated so many different styles and made it his own. When you listen to that album, there's no album that, Elijah, to me, comes close in sounding like that.
Right.
I think he changed music history. I really do.
I would agree with that.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like Darling Nikki. Do you know any song quite like that? I don't.
No, I know a lot of songs that try to be like that though.
You can't, I know.
But you can't actually do it, So that's
his head was always flowing with melodies and Prince. Yeah.
So moving on in the timeline here, April of 85, after the big Purple Rain, summer of Purple Rain essentially in 84. you get the next album from Prince. And that one was Around the World in a Day.
In a day, yeah.
And how do I put this? So it did well.
It did.
But critics didn't like it.
It went twice platinum, 2 million.
Yeah.
So that's quite a step down, but still, it's still good.
It's still good, but the critics were like, this isn't as great as Purple Rain.
How can you duplicate Purple Rain? I've seen, yeah. I mean,
but that was in 85, and something else was happening around 85, which was kind of interesting. So following the success of Purple Rain, Warner Brothers is like, what do you got next for us, Prince?
right.
Because remember, when Purple Rain came out, they thought that movie was ridiculous. There's no way we're going to make our money off of that, whatever. But then, once it does prove to be a success, we want some more of that. So Warner Brothers, without even reading a script for it, green lights the next film that Prince wants to do. And that film is called Under the Cherry Moon. And for that film, Prince hired somebody who had never written a professional script before. And that person's name was Becky Johnson. And I'm not going to take a shot at Becky Johnson because she got a really cool opportunity.
Wow.
To be able to write a script for a movie, a professional movie, And so what Prince was trying to do was he wanted to do like a 1930s romantic comedy film. And he wanted it to be black and white. The problem is Warner Brothers said, if you do it in black and white, Prince, only half of our audience is going to want to watch it because a lot of people think black and white means boring, which it doesn't, but that's what they think. So they decide we're still going to do it in black and white. The music videos for that, though, are in color. But the film itself is in black and white.
Raspberry Beret and yeah.
So what's interesting about it, though, is 16 days into production, the director ends up leaving.
Oh, my Lord. Okay.
So Prince steps in, and now not only is he acting in it and, all these other things, providing the soundtrack, he's now the director all of a sudden. Even though he's never had to do that before, he's all of a sudden the director.
But you throw somebody that's never been a director into a movie like that?
That's kind of a recipe for disaster.
It is. Oh my God.
Especially if you consider the fact that they didn't want to be a director in the first place.
Right.
It's different if you have a first-time director who wants to be a director. Prince was just stepping in to save his movie.
Wow.
And I will say that Prince had his eye on a certain director for this film.
Yeah, but
that didn't work out. So he wanted Martin Scorsese to direct Under the Cherry Moon.
Wow.
And Martin Scorsese had a meeting with Prince.
Please, Martin. Yes.
Said the meeting went well, but at the end of the meeting, he said to Prince, listen, there can't be two geniuses on set.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly.
So
exactly.
That's what ended up happening, with that situation. So like I said, it went to like two other people, and then the actual director, decided to do it. They went out to
Martin
France.
Scorsese, I'll ask you this.
Yeah.
So he's the type of guy like Prince likes to control.
Yeah.
You can't do that with Martin.
I don't know if that's necessarily what the issue was. I'm not exactly sure. But I would say that Martin Scorsese, having taken one of his directing classes that he has online, he always talks about how the script is fluid. The script can't be concrete, because if it is, you're not allowing the story
just
to
let him do it. I would be that way. Oh my God. Yeah. The movies he's done.
So my guess is right from the jump, they were not a good mix.
The vibe just didn't feel
because Martin is somebody who likes ad-libbing. He likes letting the actors find their way.
Okay.
To him, like I said, the script
is Prince the main actor in this?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He's the star.
And co-star,
I don't know who the co-stars are because I haven't seen this one. I learned about it, this
I've never
morning,
seen it.
But
I've never seen it.
But like I said, so with Martin Scorsese, he is somebody who likes, he says the script is fluid, meaning we're not just going to stick to what's on the page and that's it. Right. We're going to allow this creative process to happen.
That's right.
Yeah. And best idea wins. Now, that sounds great, but when you have somebody like Prince who wants everything to be planned out,
yes,
and to a T,
perfection,
they're not going to mix well.
Perfection. Yeah.
So probably a good thing that Martin Scorsese decided to not do this movie because it ended up winning, people, some people
10
might
years
know.
in the making, folks, that movie.
But it won a bunch of Razzies.
Okay.
Are you familiar with Razzies?
Yes, I've heard of them. Not familiar with it.
That's not the award you want to win for your movie.
Yeah, okay.
That means, Razzies are the opposite of Oscars.
So this movie obviously was completed.
Right.
And I've never seen it. I gotta take a look at that sometime.
But it also, with the movie, Prince did the soundtrack. The soundtrack was an album called
Yes.
Parade.
Okay.
So you know more about the Parade album as far as how that album did, but the album was kind of the saving grace of that whole creative venture.
I don't know how you can't equal or top Purple Rain. He's in that position where, okay, my next album, 85, oh boy, still did well, Elijah, but it's anything would be a, how do I word it? It's like you're gonna have to go down.
It's gonna be a step down. Yeah, it's gonna be a step down.
Not that it's a bad album, it could be just as good as Purple Rain, but Purple Rain, damn, it was huge.
Yeah.
It's huge album, man. It like,
and this was 2 albums removed from Purple Rain because he had Around the World in a Day and then this one, Parade.
People might disagree with me, but I think in 84, him and Michael Jackson were
neck and neck.
Neck and neck. That's the way, because I was around at that time. I remember all of it. And Prince was huge. Michael Jackson's Thriller still huge. And they were neck and neck. I don't know if they really had a competition or was that just from the media, or I'm not sure.
My understanding of it is that they did have a competition between them. And really where that beef kind of started between Michael Jackson and Prince was Michael Jackson wanted Prince on a song with him for the album Bad. He wanted
I would have loved that.
He wanted a collaboration with Prince. But Prince heard the lyrics of, I think it was Bad, if I'm not mistaken, the song Bad. He heard the lyrics, and one of the first lyrics is, "Your butt is mine." And Prince is like, wait a minute, who's singing that to who?
Okay.
And Michael's like, well, I'm singing that to you. Your butt is mine. And Prince is like, my butt's not anybody else's except for mine.
I can. Okay,
I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Because they didn't do that thing together, then that kind of sprouted.
Pick a different song, I guess. I don't know.
See, that's what I would have done.
Yeah,
right? Pick a different song.
That's a great album.
But they didn't do that.
Dirty Diana.
Yeah,
I can see Prince on that one.
Right. I mean, they could have had a little small EP of Darling Nikki and Dirty Diana.
Dirty Diana, absolutely. Prince and Michael Jackson. I thought that would work like a. Oh, God.
And that's my favorite Michael Jackson song.
Is it really?
Yeah, not to sound perverted, but
Diana and Darling Nikki.
But yeah, like I said, that would have been a great, a great.
It would. I can hear him singing with. Oh, geez.
Could you imagine that on vinyl though? Side A, Darling Nikki. Side B, Dirty Diana.
Yeah.
But then what would have happened? They would have had an argument about who's going to be side A and who's going to be side B.
Right.
So it just wasn't meant to be.
Oh man.
But yeah, so that was kind of what happened with from what I understand.
I can see
what
those
happened with that.
The chemistry I think would be there.
I think
the
so
right
too.
song. The right song. I think the chemistry. Yeah. Wow, that's interesting.
And I will say, going back to when Prince signed his first record deal, I was a little surprised, and you helped me with this, Donnie, because I don't know the history like you do. But I was a little surprised that Motown, Hitsville, USA, they didn't offer Prince. Because the 3 that offered him was Columbia, A&M, and Warner. And it did say in the article that I read that others were interested.
So A&M did offer. They're a big company too. So.
But why didn't Motown, with its proximity to Minnesota, why didn't they offer Prince?
Their sound was so different than
what
Prince was doing. I think he's so far out there a little bit. I maybe, that's I don't think they were looking for a Prince sound.
Okay.
He was so, I think he was just so far ahead of the.
Because to me, I feel like a record label with Prince and Michael Jackson, I mean, you're printing money at that point.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's kind of what I was looking at. I was like, why would they not go after him when they were literally, I don't want to say in his backyard, but I mean, literally Minnesota, Michigan, are right next to each other.
Huge in 84, 85. Oh, what a time to do that. And it never materialized. No.
Right. And I'm saying from the
You
beginning,
think it's
back in the
ego, some of
70s.
it maybe that's, it could be egos too.
But moving on. So in 1986, obviously, like I said, he releases that Parade album. How did that one do, Donnie?
Oh, Parade, let me see here. That, I don't believe that went platinum, yes. Okay. Yeah, March 21st, 1986, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that went platinum here.
So again, that was the saving grace of that whole creative venture of him doing that second movie, because had that album not done well,
Mhm.
he would have had a bad movie and he would have had a bad album.
Right. Yeah.
And that may have done some serious damage, but
Right.
luckily he got out of it kind of unscathed, because yeah, the movie may have been crap, but the album was great.
I don't think Parade did that well. I mean,
It sold a lot though.
Yeah, it did, but it didn't get the attention that, like, Purple Rain and Around the World in a Day. That did better in Parade.
Okay.
Yeah, that did better in Parade. Yeah, he put so much pressure. There was a lot of pressure on him. He put pressure on himself.
Right.
He wanted everything, 5 times, 6 times platinum, 14. Man, that's a hard gig to put on your.
Right.
And he never took time off. He was a workaholic,
Right. And that shows, because the next thing is literally the very next year, 1987, he disbands the Revolution. And I will say that he disbands and fires
That was sad. I
the
thought
Revolution.
They were great. Oh,
So after 3 years of having Prince in the Revolution is no more.
nope.
And what was really interesting as I was reading about this, Donnie, is that apparently at the time of him disbanding that group, he was working on 2 different projects. One of them was the Revolution's Dream Factory,
Mhm.
which what was significant about that album was it was going to mark the first time that Prince actually let creative control go a little bit and involve the other members of the group.
Ooh, wow. Yeah.
Even with some of the songs
that's
having
huge.
certain
That's-
other members of
that's
the
huge.
Revolution
Yeah.
singing instead of Prince.
Right.
So that was going to be a big deal. Like he was going to finally let go a little bit.
And I agree with that. Yeah.
And then Prince was also working on a different project where he was going to take on the persona of a woman for a
I heard
different
that,
album
yes.
called Camille. And I believe, because I want to make sure I get this right, I believe what he was doing was he was going to sing some songs as the girl and then some songs as the boy, but it was going to be like a concept album
Okay.
of a relationship.
Mhm.
So you had a little bit of 2 different projects going on.
Mhm. Right.
And when he disbands the Revolution like he did, now he's got an album of their stuff and an album of this side thing he was doing, this concept album. So he consolidates the 2.
Mhm.
And he has enough material that he goes to Warner Brothers and says, "Hey, let's put out a triple album."
Triple album. Wow.
And they're like, "What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
that's a little risky.
Like you need to cut some songs down. We're going to do a double album, and that is our appetite for this one." So he does that, and that project becomes the album Sign O' the Times.
Yeah, I've heard that. That's great album. Yeah.
I've heard a couple songs off of that this morning because I didn't know about that album previously. But what kind of shocked me, Donnie, was that there were so many major publications that gave that album a perfect score from their critics.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so interesting because to me, his best album is Purple Rain. But now I have a whole nother album that I got to go check out that I've never really heard much
I
of.
haven't heard it in years, but I remember listening to it. Really good album. Yeah.
So that one comes out in 87.
87, yeah.
And then in May of 88, because you were talking about how this guy, he never took time off. Like he just kept going.
Oh, yeah.
So in May of 88, after shelving what was going to be called the Black Album, he then decides to make another album called Love Sexy.
Yeah.
And that album, from what I understand, did decent. I don't remember the exact numbers, Donnie, for Love Sexy from 88.
Let me look up here the US here, see what that did here. Okay, what do we got? Number 11.
Okay.
here in the US. So,
So not bad.
yeah, not bad.
Not bad, but not Purple Rain
No.
level great. You know
No.
what I mean?
No.
But yeah, so he does the album Love Sexy, and then in 1989,
Oh God, that's what I love.
this was a big one.
Yes, it was.
In 1989, it was the summer of Batman. We were finally getting a big screen Batman. No offense to Adam West, but we were
2+
getting.
platinum. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that sold multi-platinum.
So get this, okay? So Tim Burton goes to Prince in this situation. He goes to Prince and he says, I have a movie. I'm doing Batman. I want you to do a couple songs. Just that's all it was supposed to be. Just do a couple
Oh,
songs
wow.
for the movie.
Okay.
Now, remember, Prince is on Warner Brothers Records. The movie's being put out by Warner Brothers. So
Mhm.
I have to imagine that they were, that Tim Burton was filming over here and probably their record
Right.
recording studios were
By that
not that
time,
far
I think
away.
Prince might have been recording at home a lot of his own stuff.
Maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But Tim Burton goes to him and says, can you record a couple songs?
Yep.
Prince says, sure, I can record a couple songs. He then turns around and records a whole album.
That's Prince.
So when you're
That's-
looking at Batman 1989 starring Michael Keaton, you
Oh,
will have a couple different options if you are looking for music from that film. You'll have the Danny Elfman original score,
mhm.
which is fantastic, by the way. That's where you get the theme of Batman that a lot of people know and love.
Oh God, yeah.
So you have that, but then
Yeah.
you also have a completely different album by Prince.
Right.
And of course, Party Man was a big one off of that. There was a bunch of hits off of that. But
Oh,
here's the dirty
That
part.
damn songs.
Here's the dirty part, and I hate saying this, Donnie, but you know what's coming. Warner Brothers.
Again.
They knew. See, I have to be careful, otherwise Bugs Bunny's going to show up to my door. But Warner Brothers comes in, right? And they know what they have in Batman. It's one of their biggest properties that they
thing
own.
was so huge. Oh.
So they go to Prince and they say, it's great that you did all these songs. We really appreciate that. But here's what we're going to need you to do. We're going to need you to sign away the publishing rights to these songs.
Oh boy. Okay.
You will not have the rights to any
Now
of the
you're
songs.
saying this to Prince.
Right.
That's not going to go.
You will not have any of the rights to any of the music you did for Batman.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. See, things are going to get
And this was in 89.
muddy.
And we know if you're a Prince fan and you're still with us watching this episode, we appreciate it. You know at that point, the 90s is coming. And the 90s signified a huge change for
yeah.
Prince
Yeah.
as far as his relationship with Warner Brothers. And I have to imagine that the
It
Batman
got
thing,
nasty. It got it.
I have to imagine the Batman thing, along with other frustrations, didn't help.
Mhm.
Because if you think about it from Prince's perspective, right, he's seeing everybody enjoying listening to all this Batman music that he made, knowing that he doesn't own it,
But he wrote it.
but he wrote it.
I have a problem with that. Yeah.
So I have to imagine that that didn't feel good for him.
Nope.
So then we get to, and I should ask you before I go over, Batman 89. Did you have anything to say about that film or the soundtrack or like what it was like
I love
back
the
then?
movie and I love the soundtrack. Both. You know, and that was doggone it, Elijah wasn't around it.
I was not. I was
Oh,
close.
you would have loved it, man. Because you're in.
Yeah, I'm majorly into Batman. For anybody that doesn't know,
Everything was Batman, Elijah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's trying to dress up as Batman. The soundtrack, the movie, just Batman. Crazy. But getting off topic a little bit, but that changed the Batman brand.
Oh yeah.
Forever, man. Michael Keaton, you did it, man.
Yeah, that really changed a
Oh, it
lot
did.
of things
Oh.
because again,
The
not to,
superhero thing, you think it really changed the whole
I think
genre
so.
of
I
stuff.
think so. And here's the reason why. Superman with Christopher Reeves, no
Yeah.
disrespect to that film. I love that film.
Well, that's
okay?
true too. Back in '70,
But Christopher Reeves represented a certain type of hero. He was the hero that while he's out there saving people in his city that he protects, he might also rescue a kitten. He might also take time to teach a kid on the street a lesson.
it's a different right.
He is the best of us.
Yep. Yep.
You know, that's what those movies represented, is the best of us. Batman,
More sophisticated?
Batman's not going to stop on the street to give a kid a lesson. He is going to operate in the darkness.
That's right.
So it was a completely different
Whole
feel
different
for a
thing,
comic
right.
book film that hadn't been
Yes.
done. Because even the Batman that we got in Adam West, Batman in Adam West was, again, representing the best of us, the
Right.
shiny Batman.
Right.
You know, the Batman that would take time out of his day to go talk to the Boys and Girls Club, things like that. You know what I mean?
The movie Batman '89 more sophisticated.
Very dark and gritty, very gothic for its time.
Yes. Oh yeah.
And so I think it changed everything, because then it opened up the door to, wait a minute, we can do
Yes.
gothic superheroes, gothic heroes, and it be okay.
Then
we can make
it
money
just-
from it. And then boom.
Boom. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but yeah, as far as the Prince soundtrack,
That's your
though,
favorite soundtrack?
no, that's
Top
not.
Gun.
Top Gun is my favorite soundtrack. We
Okay.
actually have the Top Gun soundtrack above our head right now. As we're
Right.
talking.
That's a great.
That's my favorite
yeah.
soundtrack. Second one would be probably Batman Forever. But I have to ask you, because you were around and you were a fan of Prince.
Right.
What did you think whenever you heard that he was going to do the soundtrack for Batman?
I loved it. Yeah. Oh yeah. And then when it came out, I loved it even more.
Did you buy it?
Yeah. Yeah. On CD.
Okay.
I have it somewhere. I don't. Yeah. Yeah. That amazing. Yeah.
So then we get to again, kind of a bad situation here, and I will say I'll kind of put some of my opinion in on this.
Things were not good at this time period.
They were not.
90 and no.
But I had to look it up, because I didn't remember why Prince went to a symbol for his name. I didn't know why. But I looked it up and I have an
Business.
article.
Business, you know.
So he decided, and this is from the article that I found this morning. Donnie already knows this, so he's going to act surprised, even though he knows the stuff. But it says, so why did he do it? The symbol was a rebellion against Prince's record label, Warner Brothers.
Yep.
He first signed with the company back in '77 when he was still a teenager, and together they produced some of his most famous titles. But after inking a new deal in the early 1990s, Prince chafed under the company's rigid production schedule. A prolific songwriter, he wanted the release material as soon as it was ready. He had 500 unreleased songs in his famous studio vault, but Warner Brothers refused, believing it would saturate the market and dilute demand for the artist's music, because there was just too much of it. He felt the contracts at the time were onerous and burdensome, says John Kellogg, assistant chair of the Music Business Management Department at Berklee College of Music. He rebelled against that. Prince compared his contractual obligations to slavery and began performing with the word slave on his cheek.
Yeah.
He saw his own name as a part of the contractual entrapment, saying, quote, and yeah, this is from Prince, Warner Brothers took the name, trademarked it, and used it as the main marketing tool to promote all of the music I wrote, Prince once said in a press release. The company owns the name Prince and all related music marketed under Prince. I became merely a pawn used to produce more money for Warner Brothers. So this goes on from 1993 to 2000. That's 7 years that he's not using his own name.
That's right.
He's using a symbol.
And I heard more people ask me, Donnie, what is it? When he first started using that, what is that symbol? The artist formerly known. I said, I knew it was like something legal with the business end of it.
And the artist formerly known as didn't even come from Prince. That came from the media outlets who would try to do interviews with him. And what do you start off with an interview?
Oh,
you
really?
always start off with, hey, we're talking to, and they didn't know what to
What
call
are you
him.
going to say? Right.
What are you gonna say?
Right.
So they came up with the artist formerly known as Prince. That was not something he wanted. That was what they came up with.
Mhm.
You know, and so it was this awkward thing. Anytime he did an interview in the 90s, they didn't know what to call the guy.
Oh my God, that's true. Yeah.
So here's where I asked Donnie Despaw a
Simple
question.
will be in just a second to do an interview.
So
I don't
here's where I asked Donnie a question.
Okay.
The 90s were big for Michael Jackson.
Huge.
The 90s, I feel,
Huge.
could have been big for Prince.
I agree. Well,
I feel like, because you were talking in 1984, they're kind of neck and neck.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the separation between where Michael and his career ended up and where Prince's career was, do you feel like that separation came in the 90s when Michael Jackson's putting out all these records
Oh, absolutely.
under his own name and Prince is not able to do that?
Yes. Yeah, Michael Jackson, Dangerous. What, 90, was that 90 or 91 anyway? Huge album. Thing sold gazillion. Then 95, History, that his greatest hits, double CD, just went through the roof, man. Huge in the 90s. Michael Jackson, Prince, not, he wasn't even there.
Yeah.
It feels like Elijah.
And it wasn't that he stopped making
Because
music.
Garth Brooks and Michael Jackson dominated the 90s.
Yeah.
Dominated it. Totally dominated it.
And I feel like Prince kind of left a piece of the pie out there
And it's too bad.
I don't want to say because of his pride, because I don't think he was wrong in what he was saying.
He was releasing stuff too.
Yeah.
And I think Warner Brothers thought it was like, he released like say even 40 albums, just too many, I think.
Yeah.
Well, Michael Jackson would come out with one, but worked on it, and you could tell it,
Which I will say, what's funny about that is it's all about like the creative process, right? It doesn't mean that just because Prince has all these songs ready to go and he does it so quickly does not mean it's going to be poor quality.
Diamonds and Pearls from 91 was pretty big. The song Cream came off that album, was a pretty good hit. But I didn't get the whole list. But down here, you see where it's just he was just releasing
tons of stuff.
Yeah,
but I guess my thing is like I know like the Prince diehard fans, who lived through the 90s, like you.
Mm-hmm.
You guys knew, even though it's not being marketed as Prince, and he's got this whole other thing going on where he's the artist formerly known as Prince. Like you still want to support that guy. But I feel like for new people trying to get into his music, it was almost like they were buying a brand new band.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Whereas if he would have just stuck through it and just kind of put up with Warner Brothers till the end of his contract in 2000, he probably would have been just as famous as Michael was.
And did Prince, he engineered those recordings too, I believe.
I'm not sure on that.
But an engineer can they have an ear for music too. What's your input? At least ask, or other musicians, do you like that? You're still going to do it my way, but I'm just asking for your input, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if Prince did that or not. Like he wanted to control everything,
Based on what you and I've talked about today, I would have to imagine that it's exactly like what you just said, which is that he wanted to control every facet of production.
Right.
If it's going to have his name on it, he wants it to be the way he wants it.
Yeah, and I don't see where little input, even if you don't use it, hurts to ask,
But I just feel like with him not using his regular name and kind of being looked at as like, I don't want to say an outsider.
But even the name became a brand. Like the artist formerly known as Prince was getting big.
Yeah.
Say that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a brand, but you still need Prince. You still need
But I just feel like maybe that's where Michael kind of became the focal point and Prince was not the focal point.
Oh, absolutely.
That's and again, that's just my theory.
By sales of CDs. No, you're right. I mean, by hits and CD sales, Michael Jackson, the 90s. Yeah.
Because people get uncomfortable whenever they see conflict going on, and I have to imagine that the buyer, even, that maybe they could sense the conflict.
Or Michael was
shy about
playing the game like the record company
wanted. He was. That's a good way to put it. He was playing the game, and Prince was refusing to
do it, Elijah. Yeah,
and that was a 7-year stretch where he was refusing to play by their
Jackson.
rules.
If you really think about it, he was such iconic. I don't know, and the record company's going to know if he records something, it's going to sell. So I don't know if they just left him alone.
Maybe.
Because Thriller, when you sell 32 million albums.
Yeah.
One album, that made him cash rich.
And I also know that one of the things I read that Prince said was that he was not impressed by the fact that, like, Michael, obviously, fantastic entertainer. I am a Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah.
But he didn't think that Michael was as musically talented as he was.
I agree.
Playing instruments and things like that.
As a guitar player on the end of Let's Go Crazy, he's doing that crazy good lead.
Yeah.
What a phenomenal lead player Elijah he was, Prince. Oh, I agree.
But I feel like that was another reason for their beef is he's seeing this guy out there and
Michael
again,
was a dancer and well, so was a Prince a dancer, but Michael's just like Fred Astaire dancing, just crazy good.
yeah. But I have to think
Absolutely.
that Prince may have looked at that and been like, dude, I can play circles around you.
Oh, no doubt about it.
I can play
Prince,
all these instruments and
bass,
all you do is
yeah.
dance, but again, that's just me thinking what possibly Prince could have thought. And obviously I'll never know because unfortunately Prince
Mhm.
passed away a while
But
ago.
people listening to the song aren't really going to care whether he's playing bass on it or
Right, true, fair
You
enough,
know,
fair
yeah.
enough. But I'm just saying, I know that beef existed, and I'm
Right.
thinking that maybe that was another reason
Right.
why there was beef.
yeah. Because boy, for a while there, they were neck and neck. It was an exciting time in music.
So, funny story. And I've exceeded all my notes that I have here, Donnie. But funny story. Chris Tucker was really good friends with Michael Jackson when he was alive.
Mhm.
And Chris Tucker and Michael Jackson, if I remember the story correctly, they both went out to Las Vegas. And they ended up at a show that Prince was playing.
Oh wow, interesting.
And Prince noticed Michael Jackson in the crowd.
That's got to have an effect on him.
So what did Prince do? Prince, while playing his bass, made sure that he could get over to Michael Jackson
Oh my God.
and play the bass
Jeez.
right next to his face.
Kind of rub it in a little bit. maybe?
Rubbing it in.
Yeah, sure.
And then he turned around and left. Went to the other side of the stage.
That is funny.
And Chris Tucker says that Michael Jackson, in his, patented higher pitch voice,
Yeah.
turned around to Chris Tucker and said, "Now, Chris, why did he play his bass in my face?" And when I
Oh my
heard that,
God.
I just laughed my ass off because that, to me, sounds like something Prince would do.
I wish that was filmed, folks. I would love to see that. Oh my God. I would love to
you're
see
here
that.
at my show, so let me show you
Oh.
my showmanship.
Oh wow. Yeah.
But I'll be honest, like to me, I know that some people don't like Prince because of stuff like that. But to me, I like him more because of that.
And he did a lot of work. I know he did a tremendous amount of work for charity.
Yeah.
He did carry about Minneapolis. And another thing I love about Prince, he didn't go to Hollywood or LA. He stayed in Minneapolis
Hmm.
where his roots are.
Yeah.
And, his treasure trove of music that they say it's in his vault.
Yeah.
I don't know who owns that, Elijah, but
I don't know, but I know that they're still releasing music, which that's kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, Donnie.
I don't know how I feel about it.
Because it seems like even though the man passed away a while ago now, he's still coming out with new stuff or unreleased stuff is coming out.
Knowing Prince, I don't think he would want it released.
I
But I could
don't
be
think so.
totally wrong there.
I don't think he would want it out either. I think that to him,
I'd love to hear it though.
if
Oh,
it's in the
man.
vault, it's in the vault for a reason.
Yes.
And now the people who own his estate are just, they are releasing the music. And the excuse they're using is, well, it's what the fans want. But in my opinion, it's not really about what the fans want. It's about what did he want?
That's right. And he's no longer here to.
And also, can we talk about the fact that Prince's music is now available on streaming services,
Yeah.
which he would have never wanted?
Oh, that's right. Never.
So to me, I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about it. Now, is it convenient
These
for me
artists,
to...
Elijah, don't make a lot off those services.
Right. Now, again, for me, on a personal level, is it convenient to be able to, open up my YouTube music or open up Amazon Music and play Prince whenever and wherever I want to? Yeah, it's convenient.
It's great for, you're right. Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I would be lying if I said I don't feel a little dirty about it, though.
Yeah. And here's another subject too. Back when Napster first started, when was that? You were made late 90s. It was pretty big.
I would say late 90s, early 2000s.
Early 2000s. And I was guilty of it. I didn't do it a lot, but somebody brought up a good question. There's artists, that's their bread and butter.
Mm-hmm.
Making, that's why a lot of bands now with Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, That's why they got a tour, because they don't pay unless you're selling like Taylor Swift.
Right.
A lot of these bands, it's, I said, how many, like hundreds of thousands before they make so much money? I said, are you kidding me? That's
Yeah.
it. Where hard like CDs, an artist was getting like, I don't know, a couple, $2-3 off each CD. You sell 1 million,
Right.
it's 3 million. They're not making that anymore,
No.
I feel bad for the artist. I do. Like somebody like David Bowie and, Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson at the time, they're already like super rich. But some of these other artists, that's a different story.
Yeah.
So
No, I agree with you. I miss the days of buying a physical album, and that's why, like, not to turn it into a thing about me, but like whenever I release a movie, I always have a soundtrack.
it's dirt
and,
cheap.
and I have a
It-
physical soundtrack
I know. Oh, that's another huge.
because I'm big on that.
That's right.
I want that experience for
That's
people
right.
that check out my movies. So
Yeah.
like that's why I was saying about the streaming thing. Again, I'm not saying that people shouldn't have access to his music. Of course, I want people to
And
have
some of these
access.
services, Elijah, you think $12 a month, $10-12 a month
That's not necessarily going to the
for
artist.
millions of songs.
Yeah.
That's the deal of the century, and people are complaining about that being too much. What? Back in the day, we had to pay $15 for one CD.
Right. And you might
And
not
that-
even like all the songs.
That's
on that CD.
right. That's right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I know the little tricks these companies.
Like the one
pull.
single is great, and then the
Yeah,
other 9
Their
songs.
greatest
it's like,
hits.
what in
You'd
the
look
world?
and say, no, there's another greatest hits that has that one song I like.
Yeah.
So they try to get you to all kinds of that stuff went on, but yeah, that this
But again, to me,
it's good for the fans. Yeah,
to me, I look at it and I just wonder, would Prince have wanted that? Based off of all the interviews I've seen of the man, I don't think he would have wanted his unreleased music to come out.
no,
And I do not think he would
certainly
have
streaming.
wanted
No. In
streaming.
fact, I was looking up the streaming today. Print stuff, everything has been
And people
on
play
streaming.
it. People play it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, and the other thing that I have to say, I don't know that he would have wanted, and I hate to say this because I really would like to go to this at some point in my life, Paisley Park. Now it's open 5
Yeah, I
days
was
a
glad
week.
you mentioned. I was going to mention. Yeah. Oh God, what a deal that is.
It's open 5 days a week. I
Right.
believe the lowest package for people to go and tour the place is like $75. Then there's another one for 150, and there's
Yep.
another one after that, I think for like 250, I want to
Is
say,
it? Yeah.
is like the VIP. And I don't
For
know.
Prince fans, they have to be in heaven.
Right. But if
Oh,
you think
yeah.
about it from Prince's, what we know about Prince,
What he was, that place was extremely private to him.
and now 5 days a week, strangers just come on in.
That'd be the.
And I don't know that he would want that. And again, I don't mean to sound like I'm raining
No,
on
he
anybody's
wouldn't.
parade,
No, he
but I'm
wouldn't.
just like,
No,
to me, the people who are in charge of his estate, it's like,
you just didn't walk in the Paisley Park.
right.
It was a lot.
It was like it was a once in a lifetime experience
Yes,
for a lot
yes.
of people, and it was a
And he
privilege
had very
to do it.
close people that would go pretty much every day.
And now anybody can.
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about that.
But maybe Prince would have thought, for the fans, that one.
Maybe,
I
maybe.
still doubt it. I do.
Now that I've ruined everything for
No.
everybody, because
No, he was that type of person, I've learned a lot by doing this show. About Prince.
oh yeah,
But I did not know.
and like I said, he's one
Yeah.
of my favorite artists.
And I love the guy too. He was just amazing. Yes.
So
It's gonna make me want to go back now and I'm gonna listen to stuff I've never listened to.
I have to go back and
Prince.
listen to that one album from 80, what was it? The Sign of the Times. I got to go listen to that.
Okay.
Because that-
great album.
I had never heard of it before. And you and I
Oh,
talked
I've heard
earlier
it
this week.
years. And,
You and I were talking earlier this week before we did the episode here
Yeah.
about the fact of what was that album that was just as good as Purple Rain. And according to the critics, it was this one.
I think so. Yeah.
I will say it is kind of funny that album came out in 87.
Every 7, I believe.
And I remember back in the early 90s, I think it was, early or late 90s. I know that's a gap, but the 90s. I remember Garth Brooks was going to do something kind of similar, where he was going to be a persona.
Chris Gaines, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chris
And I
Gaines.
wonder if he kind of got that idea from Prince doing it.
That's probably.
Because again,
alter ego there, yeah.
so that was something I was thinking about earlier, but I couldn't remember what Garth Brooks was
And he
going to
did a
call
great
himself.
job off that album, Elijah. He did a lot of covers of.
Because he was supposed to be in a movie for that. Garth Brooks was. It was supposed to be a movie
Yeah, that
where he
fell
played the
through or
character.
something.
The movie fell through, but the
yeah.
album still went out.
Yes, it did.
Not to turn this into a
Like
Garth Brooks show,
Christine's.
but yeah. That was something I was kind of thinking about as we were talking just now. So I'm like, I wonder if Garth was inspired by
Hard Luck
Prince a
Women
little
by
bit.
Kiss. I thought he did a tremendous job in that song. Get Together,
Mhm.
Young Bloods, we play. The
Yeah.
radio station, yeah, did a good job in that one. Yeah.
And of course, Prince obviously wrote songs that he let other people use.
Oh yeah.
Sinead O'Connor's,
Yeah.
I want to say Sinead O'Connor's biggest hit. Don't quote me on that. Nothing Compares to You.
That Prince wrote.
Prince wrote that.
You know what? First time I ever heard that, I said that sounds like Prince. By golly, he wrote it.
And I'll be honest, I don't care for Sinead O'Connor's version of it. I like Prince's version.
I like Sinead O'Connor's. I do.
So, but I
Manic Monday?
like Manic Monday by the Bangles. Yeah, that was another Prince song.
Yeah, that he wrote. And that, I mean, wow, what a song! And that gave them their big breakthrough. Elijah, the Bangles. Yeah.
And of course, he also played some guitar on some of the Madonna songs as well.
I didn't know that.
Which I read earlier today. I don't know that much about Madonna, so I'll have to go back and listen to those. But he played guitar on some of her hits. He also was going to work with Stevie Nicks as well.
Oh wow.
And then that didn't end up happening. And it actually led to Stevie Nicks writing a really great song. I just can't remember the name of that song though, off the top of my head. But yeah, it was interesting. Like he really, as I said earlier, you know, if you were in his social circle, you know, he was very benevolent.
He was very influenced by a band called Sly and the Family Stone.
Okay.
Man, because if you listen to Prince, then go back and listen to Sly and the Family Stone from the late 60s. Oh my God, you could tell that influence. Funk and that dance to the music, everyday people.
Okay.
Everyday people. Man, that sounds like a Prince to me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, from 68, Sly did that. So yeah, he took so many things and just made it his own.
Yeah, and unfortunately, like I said, he's no longer
And him
here.
passing away
so
was just
that sucked. That sucked.
And the die alone like he did is heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and at least, oh man, yeah, I watched that little documentary this morning, and that's why I was a little off this morning.
Yeah, the last 20.
Yeah, I said,
Yeah.
oh man,
And you know what's so weird about that, Donnie? Not to like turn this into a thing about people in general, but like I know for myself, I see morbid videos like that, and I can't help but watch, even though I know it's going to make me feel like
I
crap
know that,
afterwards.
yeah.
I'm like,
Oh, yeah,
I want
absolutely.
to watch it
Yeah.
because I'm curious as to what happened.
Yeah.
You know, but yeah, he unfortunately passed away due to an accidental overdose, and but he left behind some amazing music, and obviously
We lost a genius.
music is still coming out, whether you agree with me and think that maybe he didn't want that, or if you're like, I just.
But out of curiosity, boy, I'd love to hear some of that stuff in that vault, you know.
Well, you're going to, because they got into it, so, you know, we'll see what happens.
Whoever has, that's probably still going on. Isn't that sad, man?
I think they got it settled, but don't quote me on that. I know that they did get into the vault, and they have started releasing stuff from the vault, and they're putting it out as like new albums, you know, which is weird. You know, you're buying an album for somebody that's no longer here. Like, that's weird to me.
Yeah,
But
yeah, it's
they didn't ask my opinion,
Yeah.
believe it or not. You know, I mean, I'm willing to put it out there, but they didn't ask me. So,
well, we all got an opinion. Yeah.
but as far as favorite slice and underrated slice, my friend, what would you say?
Darling Nikki, underrated slice.
Okay,
To me, nobody talks about that song. Like you mentioned, I said, oh my God, I forgot
just the
about
perverts.
Yeah, no, it's overrated. That's a hard one. Oh my goodness.
Underrated.
Underrated, I would say, yeah, Darling Nikki. Is there an overrated? Prince doesn't have my favorite slice. Let's
Favorite
go to
slice,
that.
yeah.
Purple Rain.
Okay.
It just gets to your heart, you know, heartstrings, man, you know.
So for me, I would say favorite slice, and I don't care about judgment. I'm gonna say
And my
Darling
favorite
Nikki.
color is purple, by the way.
There you go. So, and there are purple licorice pizza t-shirts. So, you know, people, make sure you get on that.
Purple,
But
folks.
as far as my favorite Prince song, I would say Darling Nikki. I don't care about anybody's judgment on that. I like Darling Nikki.
Yep.
And then my underrated slice, Sometimes It Snows in April.
Okay.
That is a great, great song by him.
Yep.
There's video of him on YouTube performing at Paisley Park, as he was known to do, for a group of people, and he's playing it on acoustic guitar. And it just sounds so freaking cool.
Yeah, he did that too. Like with private he did that all the time. Yeah.
So, but the actual album cut of Sometimes It Snows in April
Yep.
is fantastic as well. So check that song out if you have not already. Because again, a lot of people know Prince's, like, I don't want to say dance music, but they know a lot of his like pop hits. But he also had some really good slow songs too.
I was just going to mention like a Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett type album.
Yeah.
He would have knocked it out of the park.
Mm-hmm.
Literally would have, I think.
Out of
we
Paisley
never
Park.
got to see
out of Paisley Park.
Out of Paisley Park, man. I can see him doing that though.
Yeah.
Like
maybe he did. Maybe it's a part of that vault, you know.
I can hear his voice in that. Yeah. Yeah.
But like I said, those are my thoughts on Prince. Did you have anything else to add?
No,
I know I'm going to
just,
think of something later and be like, I should have.
I always do.
Yeah.
I always do. No, I love his songwriting, his musicianship, of course, and his, he was so detailed.
Mm-hmm.
His mind is detailed. Like, and you can hear it in all his music. The thought, like, if you listen to Darling Nikki, When Doves Cry,
yeah,
man, folks, you just don't go in and record that stuff. You got to work, and he worked to get it right.
Right.
Great musician, great writer, great composer. He thought outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely did.
And I just want to reiterate something I said earlier. Just because he did it quickly does not make it a crime.
Right.
No, and I wish that Warner Brothers would have realized that. They're like, okay,
yeah, you're dealing with.
He's going to give you tons of content. He's going to give you more content than you could ever dream of.
And their job's like to distribute and promote it more than they did.
That's all. That's all they needed to do.
Yeah.
But instead, they tried to put a cap on it and say, no. We're not going to release that yet, Prince.
You can't bottle Prince up.
Don't do that.
Wise,
you can't put him in a box. You can't do that.
No.
But that's what they tried to do.
Yeah.
And because of that, we got 1993 to 2000. Yeah. Which I will say, after that, after 2000, the albums that he released after 2000.
Yeah, he kept coming out with them rapid fire.
He released them as an independent artist.
That's right.
So, and he actually was going out and telling younger
artists. Did it have Warner Brothers' name on it?
No,
I don't think so.
No, it was Prince.
It was Prince. So he got, okay.
That was it. It was Prince.
Wow.
And he was telling younger artists, he said, do not sign a contract with a record label. Don't do it.
Yeah, I heard a speech he made about warning like new artists that are going into the music business, folks. It's going to be 80% them and 20 you.
Right.
As far as and he was just trying to give him advice.
Right.
Yeah, it's the music business, man. It's telling you. Well, the movie business is pretty similar, Elijah.
Well, it has to be similar when you consider the record labels owned by the movie studio.
That's right. Yeah, Warner Brothers, huge record company.
I mean, that's kind of how it is today, right? You know,
like residuals of these TV shows from the 50s. Some, believe it or not, some of them don't get a dime and they're showing them all the time. They should get something.
Right.
Something. Not just give them there's no word fair in the music business.
Right. I unfortunately have to agree with you, my friend. I mean, like I said, I wish it was different, you know, but
I know.
I will say for me, as somebody who is an independent creator, you know, just kind of starting out, Prince is somebody I've always kind of looked up to because of
and you can learn some of the lessons from what he went through, like just be smart about business dealings.
But again, that first contract though that he signed, I don't blame him for signing it. You're 19. They're telling you the first 3 albums you got creative control and you retain the publishing.
And it was a good start for him. It was.
It got his foot in the door.
Warner Brothers.
But then once he had that first contract, then it led to the second, and then things like that. Yeah. And it's usually on that second or third contract
the money, the more problems.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah.
Well, Donnie, thank you so much for having me on
Oh,
this program.
I
really
thought this
appreciate
went
it.
well. I was, after that documentary this morning, I left the station and told Elijah, man, that documentary affected me, man. I gotta get out of this.
I don't blame you. It's
Oh.
always weird to hear that
I've
stuff.
never seen it, and I think we watched the same one.
Hmm.
So, okay. So anyway, folks, again, doggone it, like, comment, and subscribe, and get those purple t-shirts. They come in all different colors and sizes. They are great looking t-shirts, and Elijah will have these on the screen when you watch this. So, like I say, everything, peace out. Just like Ringo Starr. Peace out.